nice to have Megyn Kelly, a part of the SiriusXM family. You can listen to her. I hope you're listening to her on Triumph, which is channel 111. She's live from 12 to 2 Eastern Time each and every day. You can also catch her on the Megyn Kelly podcast on the SXM app. Nice to have you on SiriusXM permanently now. How are you finding radio versus television, the podcasting world versus your old gig on Fox?
I love it because I finally have time to actually discuss the issues. You know, I used to say when I was doing the Kelly File that it was like preparing some big meal. You spend all day in the kitchen doing the steak and doing the twice baked potatoes and doing the vegetables just right. And then you sit down at the dinner table and you can only have one bite of each thing. And now I get to eat the whole meal. You know, you can serve it up beautifully. You can take your time, and I leave having a better, and hopefully my audience has a better and full understanding of the issues.
Yeah, it's much more raw and natural. Ums and ahs and cussing are encouraged.
Yeah.
And I like the time that you can spend on different issues. And I've always enjoyed the interaction with the audience. I've always enjoyed getting the pulse of what people who are willing to call will say to you about a particular issue of the day. As between the two, you can reach a lot more people, I think, maybe in one shot of television, but there's always been something special for me about radio. I grew up listening to it and paying close attention to talk radio and watched it change through the 3 decades that I've had a position.
Well, and can I tell you, so yes, I fucking love the swearing, but can I tell you something about TV?
Please.
I keep an eye on the ratings, having come from television and cable, and they're in the toilet. They're in the toilet, Michael. I mean, we're probably, I know that I'm being seen and listened to through Sirius, through the podcast, through the YouTube channel, by more people every day than the average show on any one of the cable shows. Now, that's not necessarily the Fox News primetime. That's still dominant, but I'm beating everybody on CNN. I can tell you that. Sorry. and MSNBC,
you're killing me now. Come on.
You know, it's only the primetime biggest shows that even are still in the running.
Well, I mean, one thing that everyone would have to agree about Donald Trump, he was great for business. He was great for the cable business generally, because people would say to me relative to CNN, they would say, why, and this was really the 2016 cycle, why does your network give him so much attention? And I would say, if you're walking through your living room and on the television you see her or you see him, Hillary, Trump, which one are you stopping in your tracks to find out, ooh, what are they saying now? I mean, there it was.
Mm-hmm. No, he's ratings cocaine. It was like the news media snorted it up and couldn't stop itself. And I always thought it was wrong. I mean, even when I was the beneficiary of those ratings, and I wrote about this in my book in 2016, I thought it was wrong. I realized that Scott Walker is nowhere near as exciting as Donald Trump when it comes to television. But in covering the campaign, we had an obligation to be fair to all candidates, certainly all the frontrunners. You know, you never give sort of the 10th person as much attention as the frontrunners, but there were a couple of frontrunners. And I understand why people did it, because A, yes, Trump was interesting and fascinating to watch, but B, he was ratings gold. And so places like CNN and MSNBC that were really sinking needed a lifeline. Fox had been doing well and continues to, but I'll just give you one example. Lawrence O'Donnell of MSNBC, I saw him at the White House Christmas party the year prior to Trump running. And he said to me, and I don't even know the guy, he just volunteered this. He said, I am on a sinking ship called MSNBC. And Trump really was the lifeline to that sinking ship. And now you're seeing that reflected in today's numbers.
You look at the news this week, it's like a fire hose of information. I don't know what you're most into. I spent a lot of time talking about General Milley. As a matter of fact, Lieutenant Colonel Vindman is going to join me an hour from now, because he's made a lot of news in terms of what he's had to say about this. Give me the Megyn Kelly take.
I think there's no two ways about it. If this reporting is true from Woodward and Costa, the guy's got to go. He's got to step down or be forced out, and he should be worried about house arrest now and a military trial at this point. I mean, if it's true that he really went to his Chinese counterpart and revealed some sort of deficiency in the U.S. president and telegraphed that an attack might be in the head of said U.S. president and that he would alert the Chinese prior to it being launched, he's got a world of legal trouble coming his way. That is just, I mean, I am not one of those people to use the treason word very easily, but he's bumping up along it. And I just think in general, what he did, what he allegedly did, and making the other generals take an oath that they would run anything by him. He subverted the chain of command. That's not allowed. And I think it's interesting. You're seeing top generals, top politicians on the left and the right come out and condemn this. Notably absent from that list so far is Joe Biden. So I'll give the guy, a wait and see thing, because he's going to be testifying before Congress next week. And he just said today, I'll have more to say when I speak to the people to whom I actually answer. But if it's true, this guy's got to go.
My strong presumption is that it's absolutely true. I received an advance of the book, and that chapter, I think it's chapter 26, is only 4 pages long. It took me 5 minutes to read it aloud here on air yesterday. And the critical lines of it are all in quotation marks. I think there's a transcript, and I think that transcript was probably, this is my theory, was probably leaked by General Milley as a means of trying to protect his own legacy. I find it interesting because I read the Carol Leonnig and Phil Rucker book when it came out. I Alone Can Fix It, I think was the title of that one. It's hard to keep them all straight. And there were a number of self-aggrandizing Milley stories in that book. Now comes this book, and I have this vision of General Milley sitting there, looking at a chart and deciding which of these he'll parcel out to particular journalists just to make sure they're all told. If he hadn't said what you just made reference to, surely by now he would have told us so. They issued a statement on Wednesday.
Yes.
And there was no denial in it, right?
You're absolutely right. I had the same exact reaction, which was this came from him. I mean, we've seen from his congressional testimony and otherwise that he's got a very large opinion of himself and his opinions and thinks he knows better. And we're used to seeing that in our politicians. It's strange to see it in our generals, especially when they're outside of their exact military lane, right? I mean, he's acting like he's commander in chief and he's not. And this doesn't make him look good. I mean, this is a pander. This is sort of like the guy who said, he was anonymous. I can't remember his name. Now we know who he is, but he was some low-level White House official who tried to style himself as this insider who was keeping Trump in check.
Yeah, I thought it was Kellyanne Conway.
With no power. That's what this reminds me of.
I thought it was Kellyanne Conway. And my comment on the radio, you'll remember that I said this at the time, was when we learn the person's name, we don't know who it is, then it will not be as it was represented. And that's the way that story turned out. I'm sitting here right now. I'm embarrassed to say I can't remember him, even though I think I followed him in a segment a week or two ago on television. So
that's why he needed to pen that op-ed and sort of paint himself in such self-aggrandizing terms. But I mean, you look at our generals in the past, for the most part, they don't do this kind of thing. And I realize McChrystal got bounced by Obama for far less than what Milley has allegedly done here. But McChrystal was not self-aggrandizing in this way. And I think you're right. This guy leaked it himself. He's probably going to stand by it. He's pandering to the Trump-hating left, who really needs to be honest with itself about whether they want this done to their own sitting Democratic president or any other president in the future.
Are you paying attention to either of these crime stories that are getting a lot of attention in the nation right now? The guy from South Carolina who apparently paid somebody to try and take him out to trigger an insurance policy, and this couple where she's now missing and he's not saying anything?
I confess I'm not. I haven't been on the crime beat as of late. I've been focused mostly on politics. And it's unlike me, Michael, because I have to tell you, I'm obsessed with crime. I am a massive Dateline fan. I have the Dateline podcast downloaded on my phone, and I've listened to all of them. And I think we're up to like 1,000 now. So I'm waiting for my friends at Dateline to put together the story so that I can hear it told to me by KMO.
Work with me on this. Her name is Gabby Petito. I think that's the proper pronunciation of it. And she's missing. Presumption that he had something to do with it. That's usually the way that it goes. But I'm blending that together with another story that I've been following. The Wall Street Journal has been doing great reporting this week on Facebook and indirectly on Instagram, because the Journal has been able to get access to a lot of documents that had never seen the public light of day that seem to show that Facebook and therefore Instagram know that they have a problem, particularly with teenage girls and the way that they look at themselves in an Instagram world. I'm so fortunate that I grew up beyond the ages of social media, or I would have got myself into a hell of a lot of trouble. But Megan, here's my point. So there's this woman who's now missing, who was in a relationship. They were engaged, and I'm now seeing on a loop some of the images that she put out in other times before she had gone missing that present this very idyllic and happy and loving existence in these exotic locations, doing very cool and interesting things. And then I read the Wall Street Journal about how so many among us, young in particular, feel the need to create an image of their life that bears no resemblance to what's really going on in their world. And I'm thinking, man, maybe this couple is the embodiment of it, that they were caught up in domestic squabbles. We don't know what happened to her, and what they were presenting to the outside world bears no resemblance to what was really going on. I don't know. I just, as a mom, I just wonder what you're thinking. Social media. I don't know if you're following the Journal story, but if you're concerned about some of those influences.
Yeah, no, I've seen the Facebook reporting and have been following it. I think, look, my kids are almost 12, 10, and 8 now, and I want them nowhere near social media. They don't have access to it, and I don't plan on allowing access anytime soon. I realize at some point it's coming. But Facebook and Instagram really feel like they're working against us. They don't seem much to care about the effect that they've sort of dropped these highly addictive drugs on our kids. And then when the kids get addicted and become unhealthy, they sort of shrug their shoulders and say, well, we looked into it. And so there's kind of no other options. And parents should be watching what their kids do. Yes, we should be watching what our kids do, but it'd be nice to have some sort of a partner in this entity that's so big. It's basically a government actor now, right? I mean, we can't change Facebook. It's ubiquitous. Insta, it's ubiquitous. And, I think about it, you don't even have to look as far as this couple presenting their fake life. Think about somebody like the Kardashians. I interviewed the Kardashians, all of them, a couple of years ago. I had them sitting there looking at all of these young women on the stage together. I didn't know where to look. One was more beautiful than the next. But of course, the truth is it's artificial, and that's fine. You can go ahead and get whatever procedures done you want. More power to you, sister. But they really don't own it. And I asked Kim Kardashian about this photo that had just been leaked of her bottom on one of those beach vacations taken by a paparazzo, and she had a ton of cellulite. And I loved it, right? Because most women do. And she had taken a selfie and released it the same day. And guess what? No cellulite to be found. It was the perfect round bottom that no woman could ever achieve. And by the way, God does not give you the enormous bottom without giving you some cellulite. So we all knew it anyway, but your eyes seem to be deceiving you when you see her selfies. And my point in this windup is that if even I, Megyn Kelly, a cynical journalist, can be pulled in by these photos and think to myself, like, why can't I get the nice round bottom? I have the ginormous bottom, but I can't get the cellulite free ginormous. How come I can't do it? Now, if even I can be pulled into that, then you can't tell me some 13-year-old girl doesn't get fooled, even though she knows from her mom's admonitions that it's fake and it's filtered and so on. And there should be some more responsibility and understanding the audience that they're serving and the dangers they're serving up as we see teenage suicide skyrocketing and several women, some young women, teenagers who are suicidal, saying it started for them on Instagram.
Yeah, sad. The only Kardashian I know is Robert, by the way. What is going on the Megyn Kelly show today on Triumph Channel 111?
Well, very happy to have Glenn Greenwald with me. He was actually the very first guest when we launched our podcast almost exactly a year ago. And it's a great sort of moment now that I think about it. It wasn't actually by design that he's here on what was almost our anniversary. But the show did very well. And that's ultimately what led to my relationship with Sirius too. But Glenn's a great talker. And he's somebody who's been a true class warfare warrior. Unlike people like AOC, who want us to believe that they hate the rich, but then show up at the Met Gala, but then try to cover for it by wearing their stupid gowns with their stupid messages on them. Mask free, by the way, while my kids and yours are sitting there all day with muzzles over their face for 8 to 9 hours. But anyway, Glenn is a true social sort of not justice warrior, but class warrior. And he's got a message for her, for people like Nancy Pelosi, who just had an unmasked fundraiser while she's still muzzling half of her home state, about what kind of messages that is sending and how the whole COVID crackdown thing has long since abandoned science. And it's really divided the nation on many levels into the elite and the serfs. And he sees it more than just the Met Gala. So we're going to get into that.
Come back so we can disagree on that more. And next time, tell me what you really think, okay?
I'll work on bringing myself out of my shell.
I wish you good things on Sirius XM. It's nice to have you on the team.
Oh, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure. I'm a big fan.
Megyn Kelly's program, noon to 2 Eastern Time, Triumph 111. Nice to see you, Megyn. Appreciate it very much.